Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into a deeply meditative and pretty incredible journey. We're going to explore the minds of mystical giants like Rumi, Shamsi Tabrizi, and Ibn Arabi, getting into the raw, unfiltered secrets of divine love and self-discovery. So let's dive right in by confronting a massive, perspective-shifting question drawn straight from Rumi's poetry. Why was I ever created? You know, this isn't just old historical literature. It's a super intense, active investigation of the human soul. Rumi essentially forces us to strip away all the daily noise and just look right at the absolute foundation of our being.
And we're going to take that initial question a step further. Rumi's words force us to look inward and ask how we even came into existence before time itself. Think about that for a second. It's this stunning paradox, using our everyday language to point us toward a state of being that existed long before words or even time were ever a thing.
Now, to ground ourselves before we get completely lost in the cosmos, let's quickly trace the timeline of this wisdom. We start back in 1184 with a young Ibn Arabi discovering a truth beyond words. Then we move to 1203, where he literally channels divine inspiration to write an incredibly profound book in just one single hour. Finally, we land in the gritty 13th century streets of Konya, which was the very world of Rumi and Shams.
Section 1. The Oneness of Being. Ibn Arabi completely redefined how we think about existence with his concept of the oneness of being. He proposed that everything we see, touch, and experience isn't just a random, fragmented universe. Instead, all of existence is intimately connected as a single divine reality. Basically, those boundaries we draw between ourselves and the rest of the universe, according to Ibn Arabi, they are ultimately just an illusion.
And that brings us to his most critical, absolute game changer of a teaching. He famously urges us to seek out the forbidden knowledge of the self. Because if the universe really is a single divine reality, well then the ultimate truth isn't found by staring up at the sky. It's found by looking inward. Know yourself to know God. By exploring the deepest parts of your own consciousness, you are literally interacting with the divine fabric of the universe.
Section 2. The Spark of Divine Love.
To really understand this spark, we have to look at who Rumi was before he became this global mystical icon. He was actually an esteemed, highly traditional scholar who delivered very predictable sermons. Think of him as an incredibly smart but maybe somewhat boring professor. He was like a dormant volcano, possessing immense knowledge and structure, but just waiting for the exact right heat to completely erupt.
That eruption finally happened when he met the wandering mystic Shams of Tabriz. Shams brought these hidden teachings and intensely transformative conversations known as the Maqalat. He introduced the dynamic of the lover and the beloved, the true nature of the people of paradise, and of course, the famous 40 rules of love. And that completely shattered Rumi's academic shell forever.
Section 3. Tales of Form and Meaning.
So the crucial point here is understanding the Masnavi. This is the monumental collection where Rumi embedded his absolute deepest spiritual insights into what seemed like ordinary stories. It wasn't just a book of cute fables. It was literally a map. He used everyday characters like merchants, animals, and beggars to outline the soul's complex journey back to the divine. It's a guide with real, practical utility for us today.
The real secret to unlocking the Masnavi comes down to one simple contrast: form versus meaning. Form is the outward, physical illusion of life, but meaning is the inward, spiritual truth. Rumi is constantly challenging us, demanding that we don't get stuck on the superficial form, but instead penetrate deeper to discover the true meaning hiding right underneath.
We see this dynamic play out perfectly in the tale of the grocer and the parrot. A grocer absolutely adores his talking parrot, right up until the bird accidentally knocks over a bottle of precious rose oil. Reacting in pure, blind anger, the grocer strikes the bird. Traumatized, the parrot loses its feathers and goes completely silent. Now, on the level of form, it's just a sad story about a guy and his pet. However, when you shift to the level of meaning, the hidden reality reveals a pretty devastating look at the human condition. That parrot, it isn't just a bird, it represents a soul tragically losing its voice. It's a soul that has been beaten down by the harsh realities of the physical world, traumatized into silence, and is now desperately longing for spiritual freedom from its earthly material cage.
We see a similar thing in another powerful tale where Rumi outlines spiritual alchemy. We start with base, worthless mud, which represents our unrefined, ego-driven lives.
Then, the transformative heat of divine love is applied to it. The result? The mud is literally transformed into pure gold. The takeaway is that no matter where you start out, divine love can completely elevate your being.
And really, all of these incredible parables echo the very first poem of the Masnavi, which is beautifully titled The Song of the Reed. A reed is cut from its bed in the river to be made into a flute, and the sound it makes is a cry of longing for its true home. Rumi uses this to explain that the human soul is exactly like that reed, just crying out in painful separation, endlessly longing to return to its divine source.
Section 4. Returning to your soul.
In this elevated state of return, Rumi's poetry enters a truly fascinating space where madness literally meets wisdom. When your ego falls away and you start perceiving the universe as one connected reality, it really challenges our everyday grip on sanity. I mean, to the outside world, this profound level of spiritual wisdom often looks exactly like sheer madness. And what's wild is that Rumi doesn't shy away from this perception at all. He totally embraces this divine intoxication. He famously pleads, "Let me be mad." He prefers the apparent madness of overwhelming spiritual union over the cold, disconnected sanity of the materialistic world. It's this beautiful, conscious choice to prioritize the soul over what society expects of him.
This leads to what the source materials fascinatingly call a sacred blasphemy. It is the ultimate paradox of existence. I am, and I am not. The self asserts its existence, sure, but simultaneously recognizes that it is absolutely nothing without the divine. The ego dissolves so completely into the singular reality of God that the boundaries of I just simply cease to exist.
Once you truly realize this paradox, Rumi's bold declaration that he is not from this world stops being just pretty, poetic language. It becomes a profound, grounded truth. If your soul is actually a piece of the divine, temporarily housed in a physical body, well then your true home is entirely elsewhere. You too are not from this world.
Stripped of all earthly form, all your social titles, and all physical illusions, the soul finally recognizes its true, radiant nature. I am pure light. This is really the culmination of that alchemy we discussed earlier. The mud has finally realized it was always meant to be gold all along.
Therefore, the ultimate pilgrimage isn't necessarily a physical trip you take with your feet. Rumi urges us to circle the Kaaba of the heart. The most sacred destination, the true center of spiritual gravity, resides right inside you. True enlightenment comes from taking that inward journey to the absolute core of your own being.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final echoing question drawn from Ibn Arabi's forbidden teachings. Take everything we've unpacked today, the oneness of being, the alchemy of love, the illusion of form, and apply it directly inward. If you strip away your physical form, your history, and your ego, who is the hidden self that remains?